Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7. So we're continuing our countdown of the Last Jedi deleted scenes, ranking them in order of their importance to the story. 2 of them on Ahch-To today, not the only ones from Ahch-To. There will be more coming up in the next couple of days, but these 2, you know, it's funny because in terms of their actual importance to the story as to whether they flesh out the story a lot, maybe not so much. And yet, the fact that they were potentially there and really they only last for a few seconds, like they're very short, but they just feel important to me. They feel like scenes that I wish had been in the movie and unfortunately were not. So in 6th place is the scene that is labeled as Luke has a moment, or Luke takes a moment. It's has a moment, let's get it right. And it takes place right after Rey says, you know, I'm not leaving without you, and he stalks off and goes into his hut and peeks out, and she's still out there, so yeah, that's more annoying for him. And so he walks over to a table, and he kind of kneels down, and he just puts his head down, and he's having a moment about Han's passing, you know, his learning that Han has passed. And it cuts into Leia on the Resistance cruiser, the Raddus, and her sitting, having her cup of tea or whatever it is, maybe something stronger, knowing Leia, or knowing Carrie Fisher perhaps. She's sitting by herself at a table, and the ship comes out of hyperspace. And so it was supposed to be sort of a matching moment in a way, with Han in mourning over, or I'm sorry, with Luke in mourning over Han, and Leia in mourning over everybody that they lost with the Resistance battle, to say nothing of everybody that they've lost over the last few years. And I'm sure she's mourning all the way back to Alderaan, because that's always on her mind. But certainly recent losses have to be taking a toll as well. And so having the 2 of them together in that matching moment is kind of beautiful in its way, and I'm really bummed that they chose to remove that scene. And then in 5th place, we have the caretaker sizes up Rey. And this is the first time that Rey has an encounter with the caretakers that doesn't go very well. This is right after she shoots a hole in her hut because of that shocking revelation that she's connected to Kylo Ren mentally somehow. And I guess she's having a straight up hallucination of him there, which is why she pulled out her blaster and shot at him and shot a hole in the hut. And so they're heading off to go do their training, Luke and Rey are. Luke walks out of his hut and has an exchange with one of the caretakers in the caretaker's alien language. You hear blah, 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 blah. So Luke is established in that scene as having learned the caretaker language. And we only find out that that's in fact the case in the Last Jedi novelization toward the end, when there is a scene in the you know, at the very end of the novel about how, you know, the caretakers are remembering Luke, and they remember the fact that he was one of the few individuals who ever came to the island who bothered to learn about the caretakers themselves, to learn their language, and to actually treat them like, you know, equals, basically, instead of just people who were taking care of the place and, you know, and putting them in that sort of caste kind of situation. Anyway, so the conversation is very brief between Luke and the caretaker, and so then Luke goes off, and then Rey walks past the caretaker that Luke had just exchanged words with, and the caretaker just gives her a dirty look, and there's just kind of a back and forth, like, you know, looking at each other, and then Rey follows Luke and says, I don't think they like me, and he says, I can't imagine why, you know, that scene. So I would have loved to have seen that exchange. And Rian Johnson, in his commentary for the Last Jedi deleted scenes, doesn't really give a reason why that scene was cut, actually. All he says is that it was just one of the very last cuts that they made, but yeah, beyond that, no reason really given. So unfortunate, to say the least. You know, we do get a little bit of caretaker language in the movie when they're talking to each other and being aggravated by the stuff that Rey does, who, by the way, in case I didn't mention this during the Last Jedi novelization stuff, Luke has told the caretakers that Rey is his niece, so that's kind of interesting in its own right. And I guess, you know, what else is he going to say? You know, oh, Rey is just some random person that came and found me here. I mean, yeah, I don't know how well that goes over with the caretakers, but he kind of fibbed to the caretakers about Rey, unless we have been hoodwinked by Kylo Ren and The Last Jedi, and in fact, she turns out to be his niece somehow, but you know, we'll have to pursue that one another time. For now, though, that's going to be it for the meat of the podcast here. Over on the audio version of the podcast, I'm going to do a Last Jedi trivia question for you, and we will handle that at sw7x7.com/iTunes or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. But for now, it just remains for me to say thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.